All right, this is another Tim walk, guys. Thanks for putting up with me. And this is going to be a continuing one for quite some time because it's the theme of this is about trees. And as some of you might already know by knowing me, I love trees. I'm crazy about trees. In fact, they might just be my favorite beings on the entire planet if I'm allowed to have a favorite being. So I want to start off talking about this tree here. This is a Chinese willow, actually. And I planted this tree here about 20 years ago, and it was about that big. And look at it now. Walk into me. You got to see the canopy this tree is made here. And I want you to know willows are probably one of the best trees you could ever plant for wildlife. Any kind of willow. But you'll look at this tree, and remember, it's 20 years old. And it's literally, this tree has created its own habitat. It's filled with all kinds of insects. All kinds of bees come to pollinate on it. Moths. It's bird heaven. I cannot tell you how many birds love this tree. And probably one of the greatest things of all, and kind of maybe almost selfish, I love this tree. Every day I come home from wherever I am, I walk by this tree to my front door. It says hi to me. It greets me. And it often greets me with its beauty. Its absolutely stunning beauty. Often greets me with its shade. I get to sit in a hot summer day, stay under the tree and get its shade. It often greets me with its fallen leaves coming down on my head. Like right now, we're entering fall and the leaves are starting to fall from this tree. I can't even begin to tell you. Sometimes I'll sit under the tree and I'll look up and I'll see the blue sky through and the patterns of the bark and so forth. And that's another way that a tree communicates with us. If you have to take time when you're with a tree to appreciate it, you've got to look at all the patterns on the bark, all the patterns of the leaves, all the patterns of the branches, the light coming through as it filters onto the tree, the various shades of green and yellows and browns and blacks and the lines, the squigglies, you name it. Every single part of it is a way a tree communicates to us in some way. Our biggest job is to soak it in and to experience the beauty of the tree by just letting it come into us. It's almost like how a tree soaks in sunlight and creates photosynthesis, or how a tree makes air for us to breathe, or how a tree sucks water up from the earth through its roots. You need to be the same thing. Kind of practice empathy. Feel how it is to be the tree and soak in the beauty of it. The beautiful thing about this walk is I'm taking you to some of the trees that I've planted. And part of my plan for this land as an earth caretaker has been for a long time to create what we call a forced garden, which is we plant things that make the land better. We plant plants that feed wildlife, birds, insects, and so forth. And we plant plants that also feed us in many ways. Now, this tree feeds me with shade and beauty, and it's so unbelievably beautiful. But I also like to plant a lot of trees that provide food, not only for myself, but for all the animals in the area. So follow me over this way, and I'm going to show you one of my favorites. Also, don't be afraid to touch. People don't touch. They forget to touch trees. They forget to interact with them. Get involved. Obviously, climb them, but touch them and smell them and feel them. Use all of your senses. Open your eyes wide. Close your eyes. Everything you can imagine, get involved with the tree. It's an honorable thing. Keep in mind through it all, there would be no life on Earth without trees. All living beings on the planet, humans for sure, depend on trees for life. Trees equal life. Trees equal a healthy Earth. Trees, there must be many of them. tens of millions of billions of zillions. If you want to do something to change the world forever, plant a tree like I planted this tree. If you want to change the world even bigger, plant 10 trees. Plant 100, plant 1,000. But plant a tree. Plant a tree every year your birthday comes, plant a tree. And you will be an earth caretaker. You will change the world. Now follow me over here. I've planted about 80 fruit trees on this land. Some are kind of in an orchard, and some are just spread out all over. And I want to say something. Certain trees just find their groove. You know how you get into your happy place in your life and things just work? When trees find their groove, they go nuts. They grow like crazy. The one I just showed you, the willow, is proof. And here's my favorite cherry tree. I also planted about 20 years ago. This tree here, it provides so many cherries, you can't believe it. Somewhere in the early summer, it is literally covered. It's like a Christmas tree. And here's this thing I love. Not only do I love, obviously, the cherries. I mean, it's such a fun thing to pick them. But this tree has so many stories. Because the kids in our school come at that time, and they climb this tree, and they pick endless cherries. And they literally get high off them, eating the cherries. I mean, we get so many cherries, we can't even eat them all. And then we pit them, and we make cherry pies later in the year, which I'm hoping for one soon. And so the trees, it's got the story of everybody who climbed it. Everyone got touched by the tree. Everyone got to pick the cherries. And then, all of a sudden, if you pay attention, the robins come in, and the jays come in, and all the other birds that like to eat the cherries that fall on the ground and the ones up high that we can't get to. I'm not a greedy gardener. I believe in sharing with nature and the entire landscape. So when I grow this cherry tree, and I love those cherries, I know half those cherries are going to the wildlife and half are going to me. And that's how it should be. That's what a forest garden is. That's what earth caretaking is. Abundance, sharing. And trees teach us that, the word abundance. If you think abundantly, then abundance comes to you and your life gets better. What a lesson that a tree can give us, right? And again, the beauty, the endless beauty. Just look at the way this tree branches up. And then I just kind of go a quick scan over here, and you'll see, and I'm going to talk more about apple trees in a minute, but I've got all my apple trees. And they all grow really nice in this environment. And down here I have another cherry tree. And then I look down here and I look at this fir tree. This is a Douglas fir. And I remember back when I built my house, the kitchen window, you look right out at the Douglas fir. And I remember my friend Dave at the time, he said, well, we're going to have to cut that tree down, you know, it's blocking the view of the mountain. And I had these horrible thoughts, which I take them back now. Dave is still alive and okay, but no one would have touched that tree. I feel a sense of protection when it comes to my trees. I'll do anything to take care of them. And when one dies, I feel true grief. I go through a process. And this fir tree has grown probably double since I built my house. Probably double. And they are one of the most powerful native trees in this region. The Douglas fir is a tree that grows, it's the second tallest tree in the world to the redwood. They can grow up to 250 feet tall. Can you imagine? And I think before humans really started logging, I think they were probably up to 400 feet, some of the Douglas firs. They provide endless cones for animals, endless food. It's often been said, and I'll repeat this as I go around, an old growth tree, a giant old growth tree, at any given day of its life can be the home for 100,000 living beings. Now that's a mother. That's a mother. Insects, birds, different animals, 100,000 living beings. And just think about this. There's only about 5% of old growth trees left in the entire world. 95% have been cut. The question, why do we humans kill the things we love? Why do we humans kill the things that are good for us? Why don't we do it in a way that works for the trees and us? It's doable. Just a question, something to ponder and think about. Let's save that 5%. They are precious. And let's grow the rest until they become old growth again. I also have planted a lot of trees in my land because I love color. I'm a photographer and I love color. And so I've planted a lot of trees like this one, this maple here. And there are native maples here, and I've planted a number of those too, like the vine maple and the big leaf maple. This is not a native tree. This is an eastern tree from the Adirondack Mountains of New York. But you can see the beautiful reds, and I love those colors in the fall. And again, color speaks to us. One of the great languages that human beings relate to without words is color. That's a language for us. We are one of the only animals, actually, that really sees all the varieties of color in the environment in the world we live in. We create incredible art using color, painting and photography and so forth. So color is a language. It's a language. And the more you look at it, the more you soak it in, the more you have appreciation and gratitude for it, the more that language speaks to you fully. So ho to color.